Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your daily sources, tech news, research updates, developer chatter, and really boil it down.
Exactly. Keep you ahead on the critical AI developments.
Today is April 16th, 2025, and our mission, like always, is to cut through the noise and give you the essential AI news happening right now.
Think of it as your focus briefing. We've sifted through the inputs to pull out what really matters today.
Okay, let's get straight into it. First up, big news on the hardware front. NVIDIA.
Yeah, they're projecting a significant hit, about $5.5 billion.
Wow. And this is tied to U.S. chip export rules for China.
That's right. New restrictions. And what's interesting is it affects their H20 chip specifically.
The H20, wasn't that the one designed to meet the previous rules?
Precisely. So it seems the rules have tightened again. One Bloomberg piece points to the Trump administration's policies driving this tighter approach.
So a moving target for compliance.
Yeah.
And it's not just about NVIDIA's numbers, is it? This points to bigger geopolitical shifts.
Absolutely. You have to see it in that context, especially when you look at what else is happening.
Like Huawei.
Exactly. They're developing the AI Cloud Matrix 384. It's positioned as a direct competitor to NVIDIA's high-end GB200 NVL72 system.
So China is actively building its own alternative infrastructure. That could really change the global hardware landscape.
It definitely signals a push towards maybe a more fragmented market, yes. A move towards greater domestic capability.
Okay, let's shift gears from hardware battles to software and philosophy. Apple's AI moves seem very privacy-focused.
Very much so. Their whole strategy appears centered on on-device processing, keeping user data local, not sending it off somewhere else for training AI.
Right, and they're using specific techniques for that. I saw mentions of differential privacy.
Differential privacy, which adds noise to obscure individual data points, and also synthetic data.
Synthetic data.
Yeah.
Creating artificial data sets.
Yeah, basically data sets that mirror real data patterns but don't contain any actual sensitive user information, like, say, the content of your emails. It's a way to train models without compromising privacy.
Which feels like a stark contrast to Meta's recent announcement.
It really does. Meta stated they plan to use EU user data for training their AI. So you see these very different approaches playing out, different philosophies on data, different regulatory pressures too, probably.
Okay, now let's talk about AI agents. This area seems incredibly active right now.
It really is. Lots of movement towards practical applications. Microsoft, for instance.
What are they doing?
They've added a computer use tool to their Copilot studio.
Computer use, so the AI can actually interact with websites and apps directly.
That's the idea. It can see the screen, understand the layout, even if the UI changes and perform tasks. It's about giving the AI more autonomy in the digital world.
That sounds powerful for automation. And are we seeing platforms emerge to manage these agents?
Yes, exactly. MoveWorks launched an AI agent marketplace. Think of it like an app store, but for finding and deploying AI agents for specific business tasks, trying to make it easier for companies to adopt them.
And it's not just the big players, right? Startups are involved too.
Definitely. Iksha Labs, based in Gurugram, introduced an agent specifically for the hiring process.
Interesting niche. Are they seeing results?
They're claiming some pretty significant cost reductions, up to 40% operationally in other sectors they've deployed their AI in. So the potential for efficiency gains seems real.
We also saw an update, Zeta agent.
Right.
Version 0.2.0. What's that one focused on?
That one's more specialized. It's for monitoring and optimizing PostgreSQL databases.
Ah, okay. Database management AI.
Right. The new version has better chat, custom playbooks for automated actions, and supports GCP Cloud SQL now, too. And interestingly, they highlighted support for GPT 4.1 and Mini.
So even specialized agents are leveraging the latest large language models.
Seems that way. It's all about making existing systems smarter, more automated.
And speaking of making agents smarter, there was research on multimodal autonomous AI agents using tree search.
Yeah, that's about improving how agents navigate complex web tasks. The tree search lets the AI explore different paths, kind of like planning ahead or backtracking if something doesn't work.
More like how a human might problem solve online.
Sort of, yes. And the results were notable significantly higher success rates on tasks when they used this method with models like GPT-4o and Llama.
So better planning makes for better agents. Makes sense. Okay, what about the underlying AI models themselves? Any big news there?
Absolutely. OpenAI dropped the GPT 4.1 family.
Right, I saw that. The big thing is the context window, isn't it?
1 million tokens. Yeah, that's a huge jump. It means the model can handle much more information at once, better for coding, following long instructions, things like that.
But the knowledge cutoff is still the same, June 2024.
Correct. Knowledge cutoff hasn't changed, but the processing capacity has massively increased.
Okay. What else new models? DeepGram.
DeepGram's unveiled Aura 2. It's a text-to-speech model, and they're claiming it outperforms competitors like 11 Labs and even OpenAI's offerings.
Better AI voices that can make interactions feel much more natural.
Potentially, yes. And then there's Anthropic. They're talking about a massive breakthrough.
In what? Understanding the models?
Kind of like AI neuroscience. They're trying to actually map out how these large models think internally, peering into the black box, as they put it.
Fascinating. If they can figure that out, it could be huge for safety and reliability.
Could be crucial, yeah. And Google's also doing interesting work, but in a different area, geospatial reasoning.
Using AI to understand maps and locations.
Essentially, yes. Applying generative AI and multiple models to reason about geographic data. Think urban planning, environmental tracking, logistics. Lots of potential there.
Okay, so broad progress. How is this filtering into specific software tools and industries?
We're seeing more integration. Laserfish, for instance, announced new generative AI features.
What kind of features?
Things called Smart Chat and Smart Fields. They're designed to automate data processing and help find information within their content management system, basically making enterprise data easier to handle.
Automating knowledge work. And Elastic had updates, too.
Yeah, versions 9.0 and 8.18. Big news there is the general availability of their open telemetry distribution, EDOT.
Okay.
And more relevant to our chat, they've launched LLM observability. Tools to monitor how GenAI applications are performing, supporting models from Azure, OpenAI, AWS Bedrock, Google Vertex AI, OpenAI, the major ones.
So better tools for developers building with AI.
Exactly. And they've added GenAI instrumentation into their APM tools as well. Better visibility all around.
And there was also research suggesting powerful AI might not need supercomputers soon. This AGGGS technique.
Right. That was a collaboration, MIT, Cost, ISTA, Yandex. IGGS is a way to compress large language models fast without needing the original training data and apparently with minimal quality loss.
Data-free compression. What's the implication?
Potentially huge. It could mean running powerful models, like Qwen or Llama 3 variants they tested, directly on phones or laptops, making advanced AI much more accessible. It's being presented at NACL.
Wow, okay. Democratizing AI power. And another efficiency gain mentioned was an NL2 sequel.
Yeah, a model called SQL R1. It uses reinforcement learning to translate natural language questions into SQL database queries.
Better than existing systems.
Reportedly, yes, especially for complex queries. And it claims to be more transparent in how it generates the SQL code, makes databases easier to talk to for non-experts.
Lots of positive developments.
Yeah.
But we need balance. There are also concerns and cautionary notes surfacing, right?
Absolutely. It's not all smooth sailing. One piece in the algorithmic bridge suggested AI writing quality might be hitting a plateau.
Really? Like the big models aren't getting much better at writing.
That's the suggestion.
Yeah.
That we might be seeing diminishing returns in that specific area for now.
And Microsoft had research questioning a common assumption about AI reasoning.
Yes, they found that longer reasoning chains, or just feeding the AI more tokens, doesn't automatically mean smarter results. Sometimes it can actually introduce more errors.
So bigger isn't always better. More data doesn't equal more intelligence.
It seems it's more nuanced than that, yeah. Quality over just sheer quantity of processing.
And for developers actually using AI code assistants, there are risks. A DEV community article highlighted some.
It did. Things like silent failures code looks okay but is subtly wrong, security issues from the AI not having full context, problems integrating AI code. The advice is clear. Use it as a tool, but always review, audit, test thoroughly.
Treat it like a very smart but sometimes fallible junior developer.
That's probably a good analogy, yes. And MIT researchers showed something interesting, too.
What was that?
How easy it is to derail an LLM's reasoning just by tweaking the prompt slightly. Simple changes can throw them off track. Shows how sensitive they are.
Fragile reasoning.
Oh.
And even the benchmarks we use to measure progress might be shaky.
There's research suggesting just that some reasoning benchmark improvements, especially from things like reinforcement learning, might actually just be statistical noise within the range of random chance.
So we need to be critical about reported gains.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's quickly touch on AI in creative fields. Artist David Sal.
Yeah, he's using AI to generate underpaintings, the base layers for a new series of his work. It's an interesting blend, exploring that human AI creative partnership.
AI is a starting point for traditional art. And a filmmaker documented using AI image tools.
Right, using tools like Google Image FX for a short film, they talked about the challenge of getting the prompts right, iterating, and especially maintaining visual consistency across many generated images.
So it's a tool, but needs a strong human hand to guide it.
Definitely requires vision and a lot of iterative work.
Finally, the business side, monetizing AI.
Yeah, another DV community piece looked at strategies, things like licensing the tech, offering AI as a service, consulting.
Standard software business models, really.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
but applied to AI. Plus, using things like storytelling or infographics to actually explain the AI's value. The key takeaway seemed to be needing good product market fit, partnerships, and clear communication, not just having cool tech.
Makes sense. Great tech needs a solid business case.
Always.
Okay, so that's our whirlwind tour of today's AI news, April 16th. We've seen hardware tensions, privacy pushes, smarter agents, bigger models.
And also important work on understanding these models, integrating them into tools, using them creatively, but also acknowledging the limitations and risks.
The pace is just incredible across the board.
It really is constant evolution.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Considering everything we've just unpacked, all these rapid developments, what single AI trend or specific news item from today do you think will actually hit closest to home for you? What's going to have the biggest impact on your daily life or maybe your job within the next year or so?
Yeah, think about the practical side, the economic ripple effects, not just the tech itself. It's a good question to mull over. These aren't just headlines, they're shaping what's coming next.
Definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Feel free to dig deeper into any of these stories. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into today's AI landscape.